All right, guys. Was this a difficult exercise for you, Jamie? How would you characterize making your top 12 for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little, difficult because there's so many things that are still uncertain. For example, if you told me Josh Jacobs is back with the Raiders and their quarterback is, I don't know, maybe Tom Brady with an improved offensive line, he would be a first round pick. But the fact that he's a free agent and if he returns to the Raiders, there's no idea. We have no idea who the quarterback might be or the line might look like. There's reasons to be concerned about that. Saquon Barkley, where is he playing next year? So there's questions, I think, with a lot of players. You mentioned it when we talked about this last week. If Tony Pollard is back with the Cowboys and Zeke is gone and there's nobody of significance playing alongside him or in the same backfield with him, he has first round potential, if not top 5 potential. So there's lots of things that still have to be answered. But for right now, just going on what we know from a year ago, I think you can feel pretty confident probably about 10 guys. And then, just kind of hope you get the other 2 to 5, whatever case may be, right.
All right, let's do it. Who's number 1, guys?
It's the Browns DST.
The new coach. You like it?
Mystery coach leading the way.
PPR, I guess it doesn't really matter, but almost all of our drafts, when we do drafts, the 3 of us, plus 9 other people, are 3 receiver PPR leagues. But I don't think that would change anything if it were 2 receiver or 3 receiver. But who's number 1 for you? It's Kelsey for me, as I said earlier.
I'm taking Justin Jefferson.
Without a doubt.
I'm not messing around. I might change my mind in non-PPR.
Here it is. He's the running back guy is going.
Well, listen, I gotta be honest with you. Something might be wrong with me. And I might see a doctor. I might see a therapist. We've had a lot of talks about having counselors at our office lately, Jamie. I only have 5 running backs in my top 12.
Wow.
Ooh.
I've never had this feeling before. So it's kind of new to me. And it's kind of exciting to have a wide receiver at number 1. And I like it. Justin Jefferson, at least 18 PPR points per game each of the past 2 seasons. He gets a ton of targets, scores a ton of touchdowns, really good player, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's the safest pick in the draft. Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was not even close to as good as Cooper Kupp. I understand the drawbacks with Cooper Kupp, but when Cooper Kupp had Matthew Stafford, I mean, you take away the last game that Cooper Kupp played, it was with a backup quarterback. Kupp was a lot better. He was like 2 to 3 points better per game than Justin Jefferson when Kupp had Stafford. But I understand, Kupp's older. Rams offense is their coach is going to be.
Right. Who's their coach? Who's their quarterback? Because if the coach leaves, does the quarterback stay? There's a lot
after
up in the
his
air
meeting with the media today, so I'm sure he'll answer that question.
Yeah. All right. So why don't we do our top 6, then we'll do 7 through 12. Jamie, give me your top 6.
Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, and Cooper Kupp.
Jefferson, McCaffrey, Eckler. Who'd you say? Taylor,
Chase, and Kupp.
Taylor, Chase, Kupp. That's Jamie's. Dave?
We have the exact same top 6 with one exception. I have Saquon Barkley where Jamie has Jamar Chase. So, Justin Jefferson, CMC, Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Cooper Kupp.
And I have Heath's too, Adam, if you'd like that. His top 12.
Yeah.
Heath's top 6 are Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, and Jonathan Taylor.
Okay. So, similar names. Jamie does not have Barkley in his top 6, 7. You got him?
He is, I believe, 8th behind Travis Kelce.
Okay. Nobody has Kelce in their top 6.
No, he's 9 for me. I'm sorry. I have Tyreek Hill at him.
Okay. I have Kelce 1. So Jamie goes Jefferson. Everybody goes Jamie and Dave. We'll leave Heath out of this. Jamie and Dave go Jefferson, McCaffrey, Eckler, Taylor, 1 through 4. And then 5 for Jamie is Chase. 6 is Kupp. 5 for Dave is Barkley. And 6 is Kupp. So I'm guessing you have Chase 7, Dave?
Yes, I do.
And for me, I go Kelce, McCaffrey, Jefferson, Eckler, Chase, Kupp. So why should I not take Travis Kelce with the number 1 pick?
I mean, the clear answer is age, and at some point there's going to be a fall off. And so, the risk that you have by doing that is, putting yourself in the situation, which could also happen to Austin Eckler based on his age at his position, who's going to be 28. But I mean, look, the guy's been an unbelievable stud, as we've noted time and time again on HQ. Just because I've seen the graphic, he is 6 points per game better than anybody else in PPR this season at his position. And so if you take a touchdown away from him on a weekly basis, then he's back to the field. So it's easy to see why you're doing it. But I guess the concern would be as he continues to advance into his 30s, there's going to be a situation where the cliff comes and Father Time is undefeated. So I'm just a little bit nervous about that.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to weigh the risk of it all. Like if you were 29, I kind of feel like you'd be making a lot more sense. But he's a little older.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's a little older, and I mean, imagine if the last 6 games he had played were the first 6 games of this season. What would we be saying about Travis Kelce? Didn't score in any of them. Did have 10 for 105 against Houston, and then 6 for 113 against Seattle. So he took advantage of 2 really favorable matchups, but otherwise 11 or fewer PPR points.
Yeah, look at the last 3 games of 2021.
Terrible, right? And then he went into the playoffs and he rocked it.
100 yards per game in the playoffs. So I would say
that's the first thing that I'm going to watch for.
Yes, me too.
We want to see if he rocks it in the playoffs, and if he does, that'll make you feel better about taking him with a first-round pick. And it's just the matter of, how badly do I want that advantage at tight end over the rest of the league?
Well, the other part of it, though, is
Adam, you want it bad enough, you're taking him number 1.
But I think that comes down to also, you get assigned your draft pick. Several leagues, obviously, you can choose your draft pick. You get assigned your draft pick. We're all saying he's a first-round pick. So whether it's, in Dave's case, I think he was the lowest guy, if I remember correctly, from our Sunday show.
Yep.
And I think I was the highest of the 3 of us at 7. I think Heath was somewhere right around there. So you're just saying, I'm just trusting the positional advantage that I'm getting 6 spots more than where I would take him if what these people are telling me to take him, where these analysts are telling me to take him.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you pick 3rd and that's you feel is the best player, then that's the guy you take. That's just the nature of how you draft. So it's understanding what's available to you in round 2 and 3 and 4, just how you're going to build out your team. And so that's just the decision you have to make. If you really want Kelce that badly and you have the first pick, then you take him with the first pick. It's pretty simple.
Well, the other element is you got to see how the mock drafts play out, and you got to see which running backs and wide receivers are available to you at the 2-3 turn. And that's whether you're picking 1, 2, or 3, whatever you want to take Kelce, you got to see who's available there. Because if you're telling me that, if I had taken Kelce number 1 this year for 2022, I could have taken Tyreek Hill and T. Higgins and A.J. Brown and all those guys at the end of round 2 and 3. And that would have been great. I don't know who's going to be there this year. But that's why I want to do this mock draft and see how it plays out. I'm more concerned about running back. If I don't take a running back at 1, 2, or 3 or whatever, and I take Kelce, who's left for me in rounds 2 and 3 if I want to go hero RB and get a great one? Are they all gone by then? So I feel like I'll be able to get 1 or 2 really good wide receivers that I'm excited about. I don't know about running back, but that's what it is. I could obviously this is all subject to change, but it's definitely the most important thing is going to be, do I feel good about the running backs and wide receivers at the 2-3 turn? Because I know I'm not going to feel good about the tight ends.
2 things. Number 1, I'm going to give you some names of running backs. You tell me if you'd be excited to take any of them at the 2-3 turn. Nick Chubb.
Yes.
Dalvin Cook. Tony Pollard. Cam Akers, maybe?
No, not Akers.
Okay. I think those are the types of running backs that you'll find at the 2-3 turn.
Yeah, I think if you commit to this, though, you almost commit to just not a 0 RB, but a modified 0 RB, and just you look at the receivers that are coming back.
And that's where the second part of what I wanted to say comes into play. I think receiver is going to be really juicy when you get to rounds 3, 4, 5, 6.
And we said that this year too.
We did, but there were a lot of veteran receivers in that mix. I love so many guys in the 2022 class. I already talked about Jameson Williams and Christian Watson at the top of the show. And that's
one you said you weren't taking.
One of them, I will take Watson if he falls enough. I'm just telling you, I would take Jameson Williams first. I'm not going to be in love with Watson if he doesn't have Rodgers. Today, he's got Rodgers.
I'm not drafting any Packers.
Right. Well, I would change my mind if Aaron Rodgers is back. Look, and so for now, Aaron Rodgers is there. I would take him if he's there in round 5 in our draft today. I would take him. But there's others in the class besides those 2 I think you'll find a lot of those guys. I think you'll find a lot of other receivers that'll be at good value in that range. You want to call it the dead zone because that's where Allen Robinson and DJ Moore went. You could say that for wide receivers, but I think that'll give you some confidence to try something extreme, like taking Travis Kelce early on.
Okay. All right. So let's do 7 through 12. And Jamie, your first 6 were Jefferson, McCaffrey, Eckler, Taylor, Chase, Cup. Timeout, actually. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor here. And, was it just what happened? I mean, they were the second worst offense in football. Their line was really bad. Why the confidence in him to take him once again, Jamie? And then I'll ask you the same thing, Dave, as a top 5 pick, Jonathan Taylor.
He's 24. He's a year moved from being the best running back in football. And I think if you're the Colts, you still have some pieces on the offensive line to build around, the biggest one being Quentin Nelson, who still has a chance to be an all-pro guy this year. The quarterback obviously has got to be addressed, and I think that's the clear focus of this team, along with getting a new head coach. So I'm confident that they'll make those proper adjustments. But really, it's more about buying into the player at his age, at his ability level. And I still think that he's got the upside to be the number 1 running back in fantasy, or certainly in the conversation. He's got to be involved more in the passing game to get to that level again. But he just has so much upside if everything is right around him. And again, that's what we're talking about here. That's why it's early rankings. If they come back with another Derek Carr replacement for Matt Ryan, and don't find the right head coach because nobody wanted to take that job, I'd be concerned. Let's say if it's Harbaugh, for example. So, bad coach, bad quarterback, don't address the line, then Taylor's not worth taking in the top 5.
Right. We're assuming that they do a decent job at quarterback, do address the offensive line, and they have a good play caller. Just a reminder of what Jonathan Taylor's upside is. In 2021, he averaged 21.2 PPR points per game.
Yeah. That's basically what Justin Jefferson averaged this year, for some context. Okay. So let's do 7 through 12 now. Who you got, Jamie, starting at 7?
Kelce at 7, Tyreek Hill at 8, Saquon at 9, Stephon Diggs at 10, Devontae Adams 11, and Kenneth Walker 12.
Okay, so Kelce, Hill, Barkley, Diggs,
Devontae, and Walker.
Ken Walker. Okay, Dave, who do you got?
We have the same names in our top 12, just a different order. Chase is 7th for me. Stephon Diggs is 8th. Tyreek Hill is 9th. You can see that I've got a big wide receiver run through the middle of the first round. Devontae Adams is 10th. Now I've got Kelce at 11 and Kenny Walker at 12.
Okay, I think I have everybody the same except I have Mixon in there and not Walker. So I went 7 through 12 for me was who was 6 for me? Cup? Sorry. Yeah, 6 for me was Cup. So I went Tyreek Hill. 7, Stephon Diggs. Jonathan Taylor is 9. Barkley 10. Mixon 11. Adams 12. For Adams, just got to see what the situation, who the quarterback is. And I do think I didn't have a chance to break this down, but I do have a feeling there's a pretty big difference between Adams with Renfro and Waller on the field and without them, because he was going crazy while they were hurt, right? I mean, I think
there were times
I
where
don't
it
want
was
to really judge that until I see who the quarterback is, because that's such a huge situation, I think.
I mean, he had a pretty huge game with Stidham against the 49ers, and Waller and Renfro were on the field.
For sure. Yeah.
And it's not like he was bad at the start of the season either.
All right, so there are so many running backs. I think we're developing a consensus here of McCaffrey, Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley as the top 4. And then it gets pretty interesting after that. You guys have Ken Walker as your RB5, right?
I do.
As of now, I think that's a team that has the ability to reshape their roster, or I shouldn't say reshape, improve their roster, with the draft capital that they have, that they got in the Russell Wilson trade. While if they didn't want to take a quarterback and just say, okay, we're going to go with Geno for the next 2-3 years and then maybe find a quarterback after that, then it's all at the offensive line and the defense. And so, the Kenneth Walker III, Ken Walker can be just an absolute stud for the next several years. But there's 2 guys I think that can crack. I should say there's 3 or 4 guys I think that can crack the top 12 for me. Ramondre Stevenson with the right offensive coordinator and no Damian Harris. Tony Pollard without Ezekiel Elliott and no significant competition. A healthy Breece Hall if he's 100% ready to go by training camp. and a healthy Javonte Williams with the right offense around him too. Those guys can all potentially crack the top 12 if you want to go heavy at running back.
You didn't say Mixon.
Mixon, I think, is in the conversation, especially if you look at what he's done the last 3 games as a receiver. 20 targets, 17 catches. That guy with the touchdown potential that he has would be a top 5 running back. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very conflicted on him. He's RB6 per game this year. And just unfortunately, so much of it was the Carolina game where he scored 5 touchdowns. He's pretty disappointing other than that. He had 2 games all year with more than 18 points. And honestly, it just comes down to one thing. He really sucked as a runner. 3.9 yards per carry. That is really terrible. But he had 60 catches in 14 games. I mean, the role in the passing game was all season long. But the problem for Mixon is he's not their third down back. So all it would take is Burrow not throwing to him as much on first and second down. And then what do you have? You got Najee Harris, right, on a better offense. He should score more touchdowns. I think that was a huge problem for Mixon. He scored 9 touchdowns this year. 5 of them came in one game. For most of the season, he just wasn't scoring. But I think the only thing that's going to hold people back, and they can admit it or they can make fun of me or whatever, is definitely how inefficient he was. If this guy had been averaging 4.5 yards per carry, he would have had a monster season. But I just don't know if he is that kind of runner. I'm almost running out of hope for him. He's had a pretty below average career as a rusher. I always put it on the offensive line. Then they went out and they got 3 new starters and nothing changed. He should have had a monster year. And he was lucky to finish as RB6. But in terms of being on a bet, like his offense is going to be better than Ken Walker's offense. He's going to have, so like he's already set up. He's just kind of not sexy right now, Joe Mixon, but he's
also
safe.
Getting to that career arc of when you got to start to worry. He'll be 27.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about him.
Yeah.
No. I don't think you got to be worried about it this year, but he's getting there.
Fine from a dynasty standpoint, but that's one thing. But he should still be able to have one more great year. But
right, but all those things that you said, Adam, I still don't think he's going to make it back to the turn at 2-3 and be one of the running backs that you can get. There's no way. So there's going to be enough demand for him where he'll go at worst the middle of the second round.
Yeah, that would be
for me, he's top 15 pick. He's just behind Ken Walker.
Yeah,
he's a little further down for me, but he's
like I would take him at this point over Derrick Henry, and I would take him over Josh Jacobs.
I would not.
So you guys had the same 12 players, right?
Yes.
And you both started. No, that's all right. Too many names. You both started Jefferson.
We'll just tell you in mid-August.
Jefferson. It's just too many. People get confused. Trust me. Jefferson, McCaffrey, Eckler, Taylor. That was your top 4. Dave went Barkley, Cup. Jamie went Chase, Cup to round out the top 6. Then it was, same names, but different order. For Jamie, it was Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, Barkley, Diggs, Adams, and Ken Walker. For Dave, it was Chase at 7, then Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Adams, Kelsey, Ken Walker. So how about the difference with Barkley here? Dave, you had Barkley 4th. Jamie, you had him 8th, 9th? Yeah, 9th.
Yeah, it's just the uncertainty right now of what his free agency status will be.
My bad. 5th for Dave, 9th for Jamie. Okay, so you're saying it's the uncertainty of his status. Dave, your thoughts on Barkley?
I'm kind of assuming that the Giants find a way to keep him. And worst case scenario, he's back on the Giants, working with Brian Daboll, catching passes and taking handoffs from Daniel Jones. This year, that worked out pretty well for him. He had over 15 PPR points per game. I think he's got a chance to do a little bit better than that next year, especially if an upgrade or 2 is made along the offensive line. And if the defense improves a little bit as well, further kind of protecting Daniel Jones from having to throw a ton and letting the offense stay around Saquon Barkley, who will be in his age 26 season. That's how I'm viewing him. I think he's still going to be one of those few running backs that will get a ton of work and be very productive for fantasy managers. And you know me, I don't want to miss out on those types of players.
Just don't overpay him. That does not work out well for those guys.
No, and they will.
It depends on what you think overpay means for a running back.
Anything over $1.
Matt Breida is the starter.
3 years. If they could do a shorter deal, 3 years, and
I would franchise tag him because the I don't know this for certainty, but I would imagine just as running back deals have come down, it's not going to cost them as much because they have to pay Daniel Jones at this point.
Yeah, they do. Tyreek Hill is interesting. The end of season numbers are going to be skewed by all the Skylar Thompson stuff and even a little bit of the Teddy Bridgewater stuff. But if you want the 17 game pace for Tyreek Hill in only the game that Tua started and finished was 119 catches, 1,768 yards, and 10 touchdowns on 173 targets. That's a top 5 player right there.
Yes.
That's why I only had 2 running backs ahead of him, I think.
Are you sure we know who his quarterback is going to be next year?
No. Well, yes, unless it's the concussions are so bad that he has to retire, but I don't think they're going to change quarterbacks.
Well, they might.
Tua.
They tried to last year.
I assume it's going to be Tua. They don't even have a first round pick, right? I mean,
I'm ranking him as if it's Tua.
They don't have a first round pick, do they?
It could be better, and it could also get worse. And I think some people might be a little squeamish of getting Tyreek, knowing what his numbers. What was his 17 game pace in games not started by Tua?
I didn't do that.
It's so skewed because it's
right. There's a lot of Skylar Thompson in there, and that's terrible. But even with Teddy, fine. What's his pace with Teddy? It can't be as good as what it was with Tua, can it?
I don't.
I mean, the Minnesota game was great.
Yeah, the Minnesota game was great, but that was a Thompson
game.
Teddy. Right. Yeah, Teddy wasn't so bad for him. So Skylar Thompson was, and that's about it.